Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting me spend some time with you. I hope you appreciate what I'm going to talk about today. But before I get there, if I don't do this, I get messages. The books are available at authorjerrymitchell.com, or you can go to givegod90.com and follow the links from there. That's out of the way. And don't forget, press all the buttons that you need to press, right? Like, share, subscribe, everything that makes it easier for people to find us, just like you did. I'm going to try and stay calm as I go through this because it's something that everybody needs to hear, right? And I've seen way too much, especially over the last couple of weeks. Too many people talk about just silly things. Silly things pertaining to the Sabbath, the Shabbat, right? The only day that was actually named in the Hebrew calendar. They have first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, Shabbat. It's different. It's different. And I'm not going to talk about what day of the week it is. I've covered that in the books, right? I'm going to talk about why it's important. And I'm going to talk about how through our traditions, how through our man-made doctrines, our man-made regulations, we have taken something very, very easy and we've made it convoluted. We've corrupted it, made it completely complicated, so complicated that very few want to actually have anything to do with it. And yeah, it's irritating to me. Okay, it irritates me that we take something so simple and make it so complicated. That's the government's job, right? They take something easy and make it complicated. Don't even get me started on that. I'm going to try and stick to where I'm at. Let's start at the beginning in Genesis 2 and 3. And by the seventh day, God had finished the work he'd been doing. And on that day, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because on that day he rested from all the work of creation that he had accomplished. So our Creator stops creating and he rested. And I need to be specific. He stopped creating creation. He didn't stop doing the things that are necessary for him to do to make sure that the heavens and the universe we lived in continue to function properly. What? You mean he didn't just stop living? He didn't just lay down and say, I'm tired. No, I've done enough. No, he didn't stop living. He didn't just say, I'm not doing nothing today. He stopped creating because creation was completed, other than what we might consider routine maintenance. And that's necessary. He has to do a new sunrise. He has to make sure everything's still in order. But why did our Creator choose to do it? Why would he choose to say, 6 days is enough? On the seventh day, it's done. My work is complete for what I'm doing. I'm just going to maintain it now. Why would he do it? It gives us an example to follow. Mark 2:27. Then Jesus declared, Yeshua declared, the Sabbath was not made for man. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. And he said this because the Pharisees were accusing him and his followers, right? Oh, you're harvesting grain on Shabbat. You're harvesting grain on the Sabbath. And they'd have done the same thing if they were picking flowers. Let's just be honest here. And there's nothing in the Torah, there's nothing in the law that forbids, foraging a snack on the Sabbath. It's just not there. If they'd walked by a fig tree and picked a fig, oh my, what more would they have said? What more would they have said? They'd have been like the church ladies gossiping in the corner. Yes, I'm getting a little frustrated with that. Our Creator provided manna with a double portion on the sixth day, so they wouldn't need to go out and pick it up on the seventh day, on Sabbath. But it didn't mean they didn't eat. It didn't mean they didn't eat on the Sabbath. It didn't mean they didn't heat water on the Sabbath. It didn't mean they didn't keep a fire going to warm their tents. You know, it says don't kindle a fire on the Sabbath, right? But think about this. It gets cold in the desert. It gets cold in the desert. If your fire happens to go out, are you going to let your children freeze, or are you going to start a fire? Our Creator says you do what you need to do for life, to preserve innocent life. You're not going to let your family freeze to death because, oh, I can't start a fire. It's a Sabbath. That's not what you're going to do. That's not what you're going to do. If you have no water in your house at, 4,000 years ago, are you going to dehydrate because, it's work to go to the well? If you wake up on the Sabbath morning and you discover our bucket leaked, we don't have any water. I can't not have water for my family. I can't not have water for my livestock. No, you do the things that are absolutely necessary when they need to be done, but at the same time, it's not what you would regularly do. It's not the things you would do to provide what is necessary on a regular basis as work. In Exodus 20, verses 8 through 10, we're told, remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. On the seventh day is a Sabbath to Jehovah your God, on which you must not do any work, neither you and your son, your daughter, your manservant, your maidservant, your livestock, nor foreigners within your gates. That one's important. And we often get hung up on the word work because we don't understand the context. We don't understand the context. If you had livestock at this particular time, it was understood they needed to be fed. They needed water, not just 6 days a week, every day, just like you do. The seventh day is given to us as a day of rest, but it doesn't mean we lay in bed all day and do nothing. It doesn't mean we sit alone in our houses. We don't enjoy our family. We don't enjoy our friends. That's not what it means. And I think a lot of people get this because they take this next verse out of context. Isaiah 58:13, if you turn your foot from breaking my Sabbath and doing as you please on my holy day, if you call the Sabbath a delight and the Lord's day honorable, if you honor it by not going your own way or seeking your own pleasure or speaking idle words. A lot of people think, Sabbath is not a delight. It's not easy. It's tough. Well, think about this. If you look at the preceding verses, remember, you've got to take everything in context. Context is everything. You find out what they're talking about is not the weekly Sabbath. It is specific to the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. And that day is the one day each year we are called to afflict our souls. It means more than just not eating that day. Weekly Sabbath is different. It's the one day every week that we have a chance to stop doing the things we do to provide for ourselves, provide for our families, and we actually get to enjoy our family. Okay? You get to be with them, you get to enjoy them. It's that one day we are given. Sometimes you meet with other people, sometimes you're by yourself. Selves, I should say. I had someone a few years ago, and they were new to observing the Sabbath. And they said, I guess I've got to find a new home for my dog. Why? Because it's work to walk my dog on the Sabbath. Think about that. They had fallen into this man-made trap of being so strict that observing the Sabbath itself becomes work. It becomes a burden. And it's not made to be a burden. It's made to be restful, enjoyable. I think a lot of people who choose to follow the Creator's instructions fall into these traps. They listen to people who are just as bad as the Pharisees of the first century, right? Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't. They make it a burden. They make it a burden. I talk about that in the books. Somebody asked me years ago, well, is there a book that tells us how to keep the Sabbath? I said, yeah, there is. It's called the Bible. Read it. They're like, no, that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. I said, what do you want? They wanted a list of instructions, when to wake up, when to pray, when to eat. Taking something easy, enjoyable, something made for us, and complicating it. No two people should observe Sabbath the same way, the exact same way. And I've said this before, people with children are going to observe it different than people without children. Married couples are going to do it differently than single people. It's that simple. Children are going to do it different than adults. Animals are going to do it different than people. There are actually Sabbath-keeping animals still in the world today. One happens to be more than a colony. It's a species of bees that live in South America. They keep the Sabbath. They don't, they'll cool their hives when it's hot. They'll cluster together when it's cold. But they don't go forage. They don't go out and forage on the Sabbath. It's that simple. It's that simple. Now, look, I'm going to make a confession here. There are some days, some Sabbath days, I feel guilty not doing anything. It's like, I should be doing something productive. I should be doing something productive. No, I am doing something productive by not doing anything. I'm taking that day to enjoy my family, to enjoy resting, to do something different. And there are some things that absolutely have to be done on the Sabbath. We live in a world where doctors and nurses still need to care for the sick and the injured. Police need to still be on duty because evil doesn't rest, right? Soldiers need to be on patrol because evil doesn't rest, same reason. Sometimes we might need to drive somewhere because the world we live in today, some things just aren't available for us other than on the Sabbath. The area we live in, they have a lot of festivals and a lot of fun things to do, gatherings, right? And it happens on the Sabbath. And for those who think the Sabbath is only for the Israelites, let me remind you of this. Our Creator had the prophets often remind us his instructions are for the children of Abraham and those who choose to join with them. Doesn't mean we're Jewish. Doesn't mean we become practicing Judaism. It means we join ourselves to the children of Abraham. Much different than practicing Judaism. There's nothing in the Bible that would even imply that a child of Abraham and someone who can follow their lineage back, whether it's the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, pick one, right? There's nothing in there that says, oh, you have to become part of the church. But what's in the Bible says that individuals need to look at the children of Abraham and say, that's a good idea. I need to be doing that. I need to be doing that. And the church, by the way, has in its written history that the church is above the Bible. Think about that. Think about that. The church itself had the audacity to put in writing the church is above the Bible. But that's a discussion for another time. I'm wanting to keep this reasonable. We got to stop thinking and falling into the trap that we should take something easy and make it complicated. A lot of people take a day of rest and they turn it into a day of work because it becomes work to do all the things you have to do to rest. I know that sounds funny, but if you are one of these folks who are working so hard at attempting to keep the Sabbath a certain way, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. Don't fall into that trap of making a day of rest a day of work. I have to work to rest. Doesn't make any sense to me. Take the time, enjoy your family, enjoy your friends. We live in a world that is nowhere near perfect. If you have children, don't live in such a way that the Sabbath becomes such a burden that they grow up and don't want anything to do with it. Think about that. Are you denying your children, you can't go play with your friends today because that's work? Where does it say that? Children need to be children. They need that time to burn off that energy even on the Sabbath. Don't just lay in bed, do nothing all day. You can't keep dragging them to a worship service saying, you got to sit here, be still, we have to concentrate. Children will be children. Trust me, I was one. Long time ago, but I was one. Don't make it more work than what it's supposed to be, than when it is supposed to be pleasure. It's supposed to be enjoyable. It's a day of rest. Don't turn it into something. Let me rephrase it. Don't corrupt it so that it becomes something even you don't want to do. Because that turns a lot of people away from Sabbath. It just got to be so hard, I can't do it anymore. I've heard that. What's hard about resting on the Sabbath? Well, you have to do this and you have to do that. No, you don't. No, you don't. Just do what Scripture tells you to do. No regular work. Not what you would normally do to provide the things that you need. Unless, of course, you're a doctor, police officer, soldier, something like that. There's nothing in the Bible at all that says you can't help someone on the Sabbath. In fact, it's just the opposite. You're going to pull your sheep out of a ditch, right? You're going to pull your friends out of that mire that they're in. It's not work. It's not complicated. It's just a day set apart. And by the way, the word keep means to guard. We guard it. We protect it. We take care of it. So as you're thinking about the Sabbath, remember these things. Don't make it complicated. It's not designed to be complicated. It's designed to be a set apart day where you get to take a breath and enjoy the things that you've worked 6 days for. Something to think about until next time. And until then, I could go on and on about this, but I think you get my idea. I think you get the point, right? Something to think about. Something to think about. So until next time, I do wish you many, many blessings, everyone.